Justin Lahman, what's up? How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. It's um starting to look like the winter months. We've gone without some snow, but today's a snow day. I hear, did you get a early practice in?
Yeah. Obviously you can't do any mandatory practice, but we had a little optional one. Got a few guys that live in town that came in and got a little workout in. So
I got you. So yeah, I know in the past, whenever the snow was coming, they would let you if the school was off, you could get in early, but you couldn't get in the afternoon or whatever. So that's good. I wanted to catch up with you. You're the head coach of Oregon High School, so I've got to watch you guys compete a little bit at the A's Rumble, and um, I wanted to get you on and talk about the season and how things have been progressing so far this year, and some good things. And yeah, so start off with just what's your assessment of the season thus far?
yeah, I would say almost as planned. I mean, having a young team, we knew there would be some duels that we'd probably struggle with just because of matchups at certain weights against a freshman or sophomore against a junior senior that's seasoned and maybe a state qualifier, state place winner. But our kids have continued to show up and battle and put in the time, and it kind of shows from our early on a duel that we just didn't wrestle well was Lena Winslow. They beat us 62-3 or something, and it uh, kind of opened our eyes a little bit that one, we weren't ready. It was early on, we weren't quite ready yet. We're still trying to figure it out, and then we turn around, wrestle them at Abe's, and we close the gap a little bit. But they had some guys out, we had some guys out, but just the fact that those couple of those matches went the other way. We had some kids win, that weren't at weight. We wrestled them early on, so just that nice showing at Abe's where realistically we have two of our pretty good starters out. Uh, had a couple holes with kids that had traveled and threw in some first year kids never wrestled before, brought them down and would throw them in and they'd jump at the opportunity. We went hoping to place top half of that tournament with 60 teams there. There's a lot of really good teams, uh, and we wrestled well the first day, 3-1 in our pool. Get into that top 32 and wrestle at Clifton Central that was going to be a close match for us. Came down to last match. I think we were up by one, so we had to win no matter what. We get a big fall there by a senior that has kind of been up and down this year, but it was on the line and he was ready to go and was losing in the first period. Came back, pinned him in the second, sealed that duel, made us top 16, and so right there, we were pretty excited with that. We were okay. We were gonna top 16. That's good. And then we get an Oakwood team. At the time, I think ranked number 4. I'm not a big rankings guy. Usually they're in our pool, and we've had good battles with them the last few years down at Abe's. So they had a couple of guys out just like us, and it just came down to we wanted it more at a couple of weights that kind of decided that duel, and we beat them, and then we're now a top 8 team, and it's everybody's kind of looking around like what the heck just happened here? Did we finally figure it out, or is it everybody else have a bad day, or we just have a really good day? And I'm going to take that we just had a really good day.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean it's always a little bit of both, right?
Yep.
It's always a little bit of both. But what I love about that tournament, that were there any single A teams that weren't there that are, top 15 team?
Not that I know of. I
Yeah.
think most of them are pretty much there.
Yeah. And what I loved about that event is like the buy-in from all the single A teams to go there, right? Like what an event. Like I think, we talk about schedules and we talk about like getting competition and everything like that. It's like if you did that tournament, dual format, that tournament, once a month for the 4 months of the season, it's like how many more duels do you need throughout the year? Obviously, you can do showcase events where have people come out to Oregon and go to somewhere else or whatever and put on a competition. But like, I mean, from a team dual meet standpoint, that's like I mean, obviously that's so much of the like a state tournament, right? Like for
Yep.
for the for the team. Um, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a really cool environment. for everybody to compete in that many different types of circumstances, right? There were so many teams there that, you know, you never really knew who you were going to wrestle quite yet until it kind of all played out. So yeah, that's pretty
Yep.
sweet. And how many years have you gone to that? Because, or how many years has it existed, and how many years have you guys gone?
Oh, we've gone since it started. I want to say this was year seven, maybe 7 or 8.
Got you. Yeah, I love
But
it though. I love the concept behind it. Um, and yeah, it's definitely probably beneficial. How did that impact your guys's like team camaraderie?
oh, and that's exactly a tournament we needed because we've had some duels where the freshmen just and a lot of it's just that inexperience, in duels. Like we dropped a duel to Byron, they had a couple of guys out, we had some guys out, and just didn't kind of man up, so to say. Just weren't aggressive, weren't getting after it. And then we turned right around. We lost another tough duel to Harvard that we still had some guys out and sick, and couple of the guys, older guys were getting on the young guys on, hey, come on, you got to pick it up. Like, a 6 minute match is all we're asking for, right? Just don't roll over and give up. Just battle for 6 minutes. 6 minutes is a win, as a freshman sometimes that, you don't have to be the guy. You don't have to get a pin. You don't have to get the win, but just battle for 6 minutes, stay alive, and give those, experienced guys a chance to, decide the duel by getting a pin or, getting a big match win over a ranked opponent. Um, and they really kind of bought into that down there, and it was fun to see because if you watch some of our early duels, I don't think we were a full team yet, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like I'm not saying we weren't, there's not bickering or you're having bad blood in the room, but it's just one of those like they just
Yeah.
didn't understand a full duel concept yet, and like everybody matters, right? It's easy to watch a guy like a Bauer that he's supposed to win, so we just watch him win. It's whatever. Well, now he's going against a state ranked guy, and now it's not an easy win, right? He's not going to go out and guarantee a pin or anything like that. He's going to have a tough match. So now some of those guys have to help back him up. So it was good to see those, younger guys filling weights. We had some guys bumping up and filling holes and getting wins that, we weren't anticipating, or like, hey, if we get a win, great. But then we were getting pins, and it was fun to just see all of them, come together. And you're down there for 2 full days of wrestling where, you got to have each other's back, and it paid off.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that you never notice or you never really um like because a lot of the young guys that come in they struggle with confidence, but like this is the time where there's a consistent feeling of somebody like giving support, like yelling at them, telling them good, let's go, obviously if
Yep.
it's only one duel in a night, it kind of like you forget about it real quick, but 3 4 duels in, then you start going. And I watched the Nelson Benish match, one of the last ones where he came back from a law like a deficit and he ended up winning the match. I think it was by pin too. I posted the video, but yeah, you just saw how like the bench changed and the bench helped him stay focused into the match. As a young guy, obviously that's important
Yeah,
to
he had
do.
he had a couple, tough kids, and we bumped him up a couple of times at 120, and he's kind of a small 13 as it is, and he had a couple like that. Vandalia, I mean, he almost got teched in the first period and came back and just battled, and ended up pinning the kid. So it might have been that match, or it might have been Oakwood. Same thing there. I think both those kids are very solid kids that he was losing and came back, and I know one of the videos was the Oakwood. You did capture that, and I mean it's right in front of us. That's the other thing. Down there you're right on top of it. So we're just chirping in his ear, and you could see the kid go from surviving that match to all of a sudden he just broke completely. Nelson rolls him over, gets the fall, and I mean that decided the duel. That was a 39-36 duel. So you take that away, that's a tied duel by not getting that fall. So yeah, they a lot of those kids dug deep and found that way to just drive and finish a match because you had the guys yelling, cheering for you, and you knew you had to do whatever it took to win that match.
Yeah. Well, so now it's January 9th. So how do you look at the second half of the season? It's not technically I mean, are we more than halfway through? I would assume,
Yeah,
date
so we have
wise, but it's a good
we're close. Yeah, we have close to, most of them are getting to that 25, 30 matches already, so you're winding down. The way our conference is structured though, so we have a conference duel every week now until the end of the season. So they set our schedule to go, okay, these three teams wrestle this week, find the date and work that out. So we have those duels. And then we have one quad this coming weekend, hopefully, if, weather holds out, which will be a solid duel. We have Newman coming, Richmond Burton, and Rock Ridge, all have very good individuals at some weights. So we have that, and then Leroy tournament, and then after that, our varsity is kind of done. So they don't have a lot of time on the mat here which is okay. We don't want to get an injury. We do have a couple of guys coming back from injury, so it's double-edged sword where you're ready to get some good competition for those guys coming back, but then you also have those guys that have a lot of quality wins that just need to fine tune their skills in certain areas and get ready for the postseason. So it's a little bit of both. And I don't want to discredit our conference teams, but some of them are down. They have a lot of holes. So some of those duels won't be as competitive, have some good individuals. So at that point, now we're just looking at, our regionals. Who do we have, team wise? What's our seating look like? Who do we need to beat? Who do we need to prepare for? And we just, slowly start focusing in on those first weekends of February and being ready to go.
And do you know where your regional is?
Yep. So we'll be at Stillman Valley. Kind of typical teams, but in a way not quite as bad as it's been. Usually our regional is very, very competitive as individuals. I mean, team as well. Lena and Dakota and Byron, Winnebago, Genoa, Kingston. But we had some teams, drop out. So Polo went to Princeton dropped out this year. They went, to a different regional. So we have, a new team like Galena. Obviously, they're doing everything they can with what they have, but it just kind of changes that depth a little bit of very high level opponents to maybe guys that you don't know of yet until you see them, and then you got to be ready to go. So it's
And
it's
do
going to
you
be a competitive regional though as a team.
and do you know your sectional already? Like
Yep. So
where it
you can look
feeds
that
into?
up. Yeah, that one's going to be
Because that
that's
one was
the
really tough last year.
yep. It's still very tough. I mean, we get a Marion, they're coming over, and then you got a lot of other schools, down south. You get and Newman's actually a solid team. So it's individual wise, it's going to be pretty deep at some weights, but I would say down maybe just a little bit as it's been, because last year we had Yorkville Christian and those guys moved up. So like I said, Harvard they went 2A. So you lost a couple of schools that go to 2A, but still very very deep sectional.
Do you know where it's hosted?
It'll be at Byron this year.
Okay, cool. That'll be good. That's I
Yeah,
mean, it
local
was
for
at
us.
Oregon. Yeah, I mean, I was at it last year and it was at Oregon. So this year at Byron would be nice. Um,
Yep.
well, cool. So there's yeah, the transition into the next part of the season, kind of winding down, but getting geared up for the the state series and stuff like that. Um, Anything else going on in Oregon wrestling? I know one thing I wanted to mention is I forgot to post this, but so far to date, your podcast is the highest listened to podcast, or at least it was for 2023. So I thought that that must be a sign that there's a lot of support in the Oregon wrestling community, and a lot of people wanted to hear what was going on with the team and stuff. So how's the season been overall as far as like the program?
Yeah, so it's great. So junior high actually just started yesterday. Of course, bad to have a snow day the second day of the season for them to practice, but I think their numbers are close to 40 kids. Our kids club, I don't know exact numbers, but I want to say there's 80, 90 kids between, kindergarten and eighth grade that have been doing the IKWF stuff. We just hosted our kids club tournament this last weekend. Over 400 kids came, all the parents step up. So it's just to me, it's easy as a coach. We have very good support. They everybody's always at, hey, what can we do? What can we do to help? When you need help, you usually don't have to ask more than once. Everybody's there. So it is, like I said, easy. I know some other programs, smaller programs that might not have as many people to pull from or try to pull this stuff off, still trying to do it. Where here it's just expected of this is what we do. This is, you have the group of parents that were in Oregon, early 2000s, late 90s when it was just rolling and they understood it. It takes a community to make this work. And in a way, we've been one of the more successful programs at the high school. So that kind of helps, keep people interested and wanting to come out and be a part of it. And uh, I I feel like we do a good job as a staff trying to get stuff out. This week we're gonna have some fun. I blame the snowstorm on myself. We're gonna have a whiteout duel and hopefully on Friday, but I see that brought in all the snow. I didn't want it to be a whiteout duel that way, but so we try to have fun with our duels. Our kids have some theme music they walk out to, and so the kids, you got to make it fun. If it's not fun, it's a lot of kids don't want to be there. Parents don't care to be there, but when kids are showing up and they're talking about, hey, we did this at practice, or hey, look, this is how we do our duels. This is what we're doing for tournaments. Um, it makes it pretty easy. So you just and then we're going to do an alumni duel. So we're bringing back a reunion class this Saturday for our quad, and just trying to keep people, coming back, having fun, being a part of it, and kind of keep Oregon, relevant all around.
Right. Yeah, I think you're moving in a real good direction. Um, with the duels and stuff, one of the things I was curious about, because you kind of mentioned it, right? Do you guys do any like strategy as far as like how you produce or the production of the duel, right? Whether it's like what kind of music do you play in the dead space, whether it's warming up before the match or even like at a break in the action and stuff like that. Do you think about stuff like that?
Yeah, so like I said, we're kind of with the last couple of years, I really tried to just find ways, to make it fun, make it interesting, and keep it kind of upbeat. We talked about a little bit at Aves, right? So when you have some of those duels that maybe aren't as competitive, and then you're still there for a couple hours, it's a long time to sit around, and you're maybe only getting one or two good matches. So you're trying to find ways to keep fans engaged and wanting them to come, because it's not fun to come and watch and you're like, oh, okay, there's maybe one really good match, and then everybody else is like hit or miss, right? Either have a really good kid against first year kids. So we're slowly getting there. The one thing was the kids really wanted to have a walkout song, so pretty easy. You get it, got an app for that. They all have their name on it. They have their walkout song. But pre-match is a little different for us. So in Oregon, we actually have our wrestling room is up in like the old part of the gym. So we actually get away and can kind of just really focus in on ourselves and don't worry too much about the pre-match stuff. And then the opponents are out in front of everybody, kind of warming up. So I haven't really thought of that during the
Yeah.
like pre-match, but yeah, some music probably wouldn't hurt. But like I
Mhm.
said, we just try to have fun. And, last year was a really cool chance. We had Milliken and Augustana wrestle after one of our duels. So during that duel, we actually had shirts. I purchased a bunch of Oregon shirts, and after each match, the winner of the college duel threw it out to the kids, and it was crazy. It was fun. The kids were loving it. They were tackling each other, but uh, just things like that. So when we have duels, we do try to have some fun stuff. So every year, I'm just trying to find either a new theme or something that'll work to kind of
Yeah.
pull it all together.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll have to touch base in the off season, get some time because I've been working on um, trying to come up with a way for like a real production of an event that would be kind of like a plug and play where, coaches don't have to think and micromanage too much because obviously, like you said, you're doing a bunch of stuff at the same time. So it's hard to really organize everything. But yeah, I love it. So yeah. Well, if there's anything else you want to say or talk about, let me know. Otherwise, I'm glad that you came on, got the chance to catch up. I've obviously been paying attention to what's going on, and yeah, looking forward to the end of the season. So
Yeah, really just kind of like we talked a little bit about it down at Abe's too. You're trying to get a folk style series started, in the off season.
oh yeah,
I'm a big folk style guy. It's not that I didn't like freestyle and Greco, but I was from a tiny school, so it wasn't that was not a thing for me. And I do think some of those folk style tournaments have kind of died off because everybody just buys into freestyle and Greco, and I think there's quite a few kids that are not freestyle and Greco guys, but they just kind of get forced in it because that's
yeah.
everybody
So
else doing.
so kind of to give some context, right? So I personally want to come up with some type of competitive series in the area where we can kind of like, just continue to put on events and stuff, but more importantly, like, um, continue the conversation around who's participating, who's competing, and their progress throughout the season. But like you said, a lot of people jump into freestyle And, I don't really fall into that concept because I've seen a lot of like lower level wrestlers get into freestyle and, they get taken down, they get into leg lace and then the match is over, you know, or they just confused from the standpoint of how to wrestle, what to do, and so on. So then they get deterred and they don't want to do it. So, I'm a big folk style guy. I think folk style is this style. It's the best representation for overall grappling, in my opinion. I think the freestyle crave has been pushed, obviously, by the powers that be that are in those positions that want people to participate. But when it comes to like developing talent, developing skill sets for the lower level kids and really a lot of the varsity kids in the Northern Illinois area, right? Like we don't have a ton of kids who are so exceptional that they can transition to a national freestyle competition and do really well. But the only competitions that are available are oftentimes freestyle. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having the possibility of putting on an event, at least multiple events in the off season that are folk style based tournaments. And yeah, we've talked about the possibility of putting one at Oregon. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to the off season and seeing what we can kind of come together and work on and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a big folk style guy. Um, I did freestyle 1 year, hated it, hated the parterre position. Obviously, today I understand freestyle a lot better and stuff, but at the time, um, I just didn't understand it or understand why I was supposed to be doing it. And yeah, I mean, so did you like have you had many kids want to participate in the off season, and were they reluctant to do it because of freestyle by chance?
Yeah, so we usually have a core group that likes to do it, and then it just depends if they get in and they go, "Oh man, this is awesome," and then there's a couple that you can tell they don't get it. They're not good enough at it yet, and they went from maybe being somewhat successful at folk style to now I'm back to square one and freestyle and Greco, and it's not quite as fun. And then they're like, yeah, I don't think I want to do that anymore. So it is tough that you get kids that aren't sure and they try it and they're like, man, this is not for me. But where do you go? Right? There's
Yeah.
not too many clubs that still have a folk style base that's all freestyle Greco. And I'm not saying it's bad to experience those, and you do benefit a little bit in certain areas, but like you're saying, if you're just a folk style guy and that's just your concept, then you're kind of limited in the summer. And that's where we do try to offer a couple camps locally or bring guys in, like a college guy in to, work with them and still try to keep it folk style based. But it's hard to do a full time training when, all the clubs around you are freestyle and Greco, and you have guys going, what do I do, coach? I don't want to do either one of those.
Yeah. Well, just thinking about so many, in folk style, there's so many positions where you'll see, an average wrestler kind of work through the position. And, there's not really a 2 point takedown yet because it's unclear of who's on top. And even when they get to the top position, they can still wrestle through because they're not necessarily just automatically getting back points. The referee has to swipe in order to award back points. So it allows more scrambling. Personally, I love scrambling, and obviously college wrestling, high level folk style wrestling is a lot of scrambling. Um, and yeah, so it just allows people to learn the developmental, like learn as they're developing and getting older, their bodies start to naturally like get more control. And, yeah, I'm a big yeah, this is the opposite of what well, Nelson was still just talking about Greco last time. Um
Yeah, yeah, he's a Greco guy, and rightfully so. He was pretty good at it.
yeah, and I talked to him about the Greco thing because Greco is still just a rule set. So it's like you can still in Greco, you can, and say for instance at a folk style practice, you can go, hey guys, we're gonna just only work on hand fighting and position and upper body throws and positional wrestling. You can't touch the legs, right? You can do that, and a kid who's not necessarily super. skilled at wrestling can still kind of jump into that world with, you know, underhooks, front headlocks, right? Throwing headlocks, throwing laterals, whatever positional thing. And it's actually a positive thing for their hand fighting and their position with their head position, their, clearing ties, getting ties, whatever it is, 2-on-1s, Russians, so on and so forth. So I think the implementation of Greco is much more of a beneficial, like, skill development thing as opposed to freestyle in many ways, because freestyle, it's like once you get taken down, if you don't know freestyle, the match is basically over. and
Yeah.
um and again, the whole, you're just changing too much of the sport um for a lot of kids that are just starting to get into the sport. So it's like, you wouldn't, I don't even know how to think of the analogy, but it's like if you got somebody into baseball and then like in the off season you're starting to play, I don't even know, like cricket, like something completely different, right? I don't even know
Yep.
how to describe it. It's just a lot of kids, um, uh, yeah, it's just, and for me personally, like freestyle, um, a very small percentage of people compete in freestyle at the highest level and even just in general, right? Like it's just a small percentage. So I think there was really good marketing by people in USA Wrestling and, Illinois USAW and stuff. Is really good marketing to get people thinking that they have to do freestyle in order to get better at folk style. But I know for a fact that that's not the case. You hear a lot of people say, well, freestyle helped my folk style. It's like, well, here's the thing. If you're a really good athlete, I could say that about golf. I could say that about lifting weights. I could say that about, putting a slack line on trees and trying to balance across it, right? Like there's so many
Yep.
things that I can say helped my wrestling. It doesn't necessarily, correlation doesn't mean causation, right? So just because you improve at a lot of things doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do those things. So I'm with you. I think a lot of area kids would benefit much more from a folk style off season just to continue to grow on the things that they worked on. I mean, think about leg wrestling, top wrestling, getting out on bottom. Like, you don't just learn that in a couple months. And knowing, and you can attest to this, like during the season, I mean, you're competing and you practice, but you don't get that much time to get those reps in as you think. Before you know it, the season's over with. And, some kids made some jumps and some kid, that jump is different for every kid. But yeah, I don't see the difference. I think switching to different styles outside of, like I said, outside of maybe using Greco as an opportunity to really encourage the hand fighting position and the physical toughness of the battle. But yeah, freestyle, I'm not really too much of a proponent. I mean, if you're a top 5 kid in the country and you want to do freestyle, yeah, go for it. It's not going to hurt you. But if you're not a state placer in folk style, I don't see the point of doing freestyle.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, that's a tough transition. But into like that point though is like that bottom wrestling. So freestyle, your only goal is just lay there and go flat. If you go flat in folk style, you're not doing any good. So that some of that is just you know different. I'm a big guy. You got to be able to get out on bottom. We struggle a little bit on that. We've had some matches where we lost because we just didn't get away on bottom. So if I send those kids to freestyle, even Greco, there's really zero advantage to learn anything on bottom because your only goal is to not get turned, and it's not the same, defense to regular folk style wrestling to not get turned. You're just laying flat, wide base, laying there, doing nothing, and just going, no, don't turn me. Instead of, okay, I'm gonna hand fight. I'm gonna find a way to get up. Whether it's quad pod or stand or sit out, something where you do any of those, and you're in trouble in freestyle and Greco. So I'm a folk style guy through and through, and don't get me wrong, I like watching it, but then like you said, you get one takedown in a leg lace and you're done in 10 seconds. Where the only way that happens in folk style is if you get thrown to your back and pinned. You're not very rarely getting teched in 10 seconds in folk style.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing this up because I almost forgot that we, about talking about the future plans and stuff. But yeah, I love this. I think I'll bring this stuff up for, I'll continue to bring this conversation. Maybe next time, we can, even have Nelson on and debate, or not even, I don't know about debating. I don't know if it will actually be a debate. I mean, I think again, every individual could be potentially a different scenario, right? Like some kids
Yep.
um, are really desiring to go compete at a national level. That's perfectly fine. But most of the kids that we're talking about, getting them 6 matches every month in the off season in folk style could be really beneficial for them. Um, and so what's cool is these tournaments don't have to be huge tournaments. They just have to be um, enough matches where it makes sense for people to get together and do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like the idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. And like I said, there used to be a few series that back when I was in high school wrestling, and I'd travel around, and I don't even remember what they were called, but you'd kind of win if you won so many matches or you did this or that. They had different plaques and awards, and they're still out in my garage somewhere. But even just something like that, it was a series that it was just kind of fun to know. Okay, I
Yeah.
have a tournament, this weekend, this weekend, this weekend, and gonna see some kids. I travel with a group of guys. Like I said, I went to AFC, so we had a very small team. Usually I was one of the only ones that actually competed in the off season. So, to be able to take, even a small group from Oregon and, maybe some guys from Byron or Stillman that, you kind of are all in the area, but you usually train a little bit already and now you get to go compete and kind of have fun. It was fun. And then knowing it's a style I'm good at or okay at, it makes it easier.
Yeah. So if you were to put that like, what months do you think are ideal for that?
I mean, it just depends, really. I mean, I think we competed basically right after the season, so a lot of them were, March, April, May, and then you just kind of went from there. I think we found some in June, but a lot of them were, March, April, May, kind of finishing out the year is where I competed. Um, but like I said, that was still more of a folk style base then. I mean, we still have freestyle Greco, but it's not where it, is today, where it's almost every weekend you can find freestyle and Greco, where back then it was kind of split up almost every other weekend. There was some series somewhere that we would compete in kind of in by the city. Uh, but
Yeah.
I think
Does
basically if you can just keep them in, that helps.
yeah. Is March too busy with all the other stuff to get enough people
I would say it's
participating?
late March because we still have the Fresh Soft series that goes. Um, is that like the second week? Through the second week, I think, of March is our Fresh Soft State series. We usually have a pretty good
Yeah.
group, at least from Oregon, that competes in that. So it would be late March and then through April, May. Because I do remember it was during May we're finishing up school my senior year. I was still kind of finding tournaments on the weekends and wrestling.
Yeah. Maybe we can think about like April, May, and then June having like a series finale where you really get to, because we've talked about like we were talking about point systems and stuff and getting people to commit to it,
Yep.
so that they go to as many competitions as they can or as they want just to accumulate points towards, some sort of ranking of some kind, right? So yeah, we'll have to like keep iron this out as far as dates and stuff. We'll have to get some other teams or other schools interested in hosting and talk about what it would look like to put it on together. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always fun to get kids on the mat and just having fun
Yeah, no,
competing.
absolutely. Well, you went blur. You went completely blurry. You got to get
I
close,
see that
buddy.
my screen kind of messed up here a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm
no worries.
ghosting
Uh,
out.
yeah, yeah. It's time for you to go. Um, But yeah, I appreciate you jumping on and talking wrestling and talking Oregon wrestling. So if I don't get to see you again through the screen, um,
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm trying a couple things here.
yeah, we'll touch base again towards the end of the season. Um, good luck with everything, and yeah, good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, we're just trying to get healthy, stay healthy, and be ready to go come February. That's the goal.